Hello, welcome to part 2 of our Drag Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.2. In this part, we're going to talk more about strategy and go over some basic game plan elements which will build on the essential tools we already went over. We'll also suggest some players to check out and cap it off with a brief character summary. Don't forget about all the resource links I mentioned in part 1. Those may be very useful to you, especially if you are brand new to the game. I've included those once again in the video description below. Enough of that, let's get going. Dragunov's lone stance is the traditional quarter circle forward crouch dash. Your primary low here is CD3, an unseeable high crush, solid range, solid damage, and on counter hit it will either go into a hit throw if you're close enough, or trip at range and you can combo from it. The big weaknesses are that it's -6 on hit, which is terrible, and -15 on block, which is also terrible. So unfortunately it's tough to abuse since the -6 doesn't allow you to keep pressure up. Still, the damage, especially on counter hit, is enough to warrant its occasional use. Otherwise, you have an enormous amount of strong mids to choose from. For true CD moves, we'll start with CD2, a big damage launcher with great range, same speed as CD3, but risky at -14 on block. CD4 is much less risky at -10, does a solid 33 damage on its own, but also goes into a chain throw on hit for a single 50-50 guess. If you guess right, you'll nab another easy 20 damage, so the reward is decent for only -10 on block. Like other crouch dash characters, Drag also has the fake crouch dash, which will put you in full crouch, giving you access to his while standing moves. While standing 4 is of course your generic safe I11 mid poke. While standing 1 is another mid poke, even safer than while standing 4 and only a tad slower at I12. It has 2 NC enders to choose from as well. While standing 1-2 is your safe but duckable option. While standing 1-3 is your very risky mid wall bouncing option. While standing 1-3 is incredibly scary near the wall. While standing 1-2 can splat as well, since it gives the spin state on hit, and the second hit launches on counter hit, making it amazing cover for While Standing 1. While Standing 1's biggest issue is range, which is why the fake crouch dash is so important, since it provides you that extra forward movement, making range much less of an issue. While Standing 3 is another safe mid, a power mid this time. You'll notice it looks just like the ender of While Standing 1-3 because it mostly is. It has great range and gives a wall bounce, but it is a safe version with pushback to help the cause even further, and still moderately fast at I16. While Standing 2 is an alternative mid-launch option to CD2. It's a pretty standard I15 while standing launcher, so -12 on block, although good range on its own, which again is amplified by the additional movement of the fake crouch dash. We'll talk about Drag's great whiff punishing a bit more later, but one nice little strategy to note now is that if you feint with a crouch dash at range, it doesn't matter if you do a true crouch dash or the fake crouch dash. If you spy a whiff, mash that 2 button and either CD2 or while standing 2 will launch the whiff. Not a lot of characters have that kind of versatility. Now, aside from your standard toe kick crouch jab, the only other full crouch while standing move you have is while standing 1+2. It's a very chunky I12 knockdown splatter, but very risky at -14 on block. It's typically reserved for punishing, although even then your while standing 1 strings will yield more damage. The biggest advantages are perhaps that it is a shoulder, so it's unparryable. It has a bit more range than while standing 1, and it's the only while standing move that can be done from the true crouch dash as crouch dash 1+2. And a quick shout out to his command low parry. It does decent amount of damage if it actually reverses something, but it recovers incredibly quickly on whiff and recovers full crouch, so it's not a terrible bait move. The only other move to mention is CD1, an absolute monster of a move. I15 launcher, incredibly safe at -3, which is great for setup purposes too. Thanks to its speed and the range given by that motion, you'll find a lot of opportunities to nab counter hits with this or land some whiff punishes. It is a high, so be mindful of that, but otherwise it's an incredible move. There's a reason so many players refer to it as his electric wind godfist. Finally, a quick word on the couple of crouch dash transitions he has. You'll see forward 3 down forward somewhat often for wall carry, reason being that you can cancel crouch dash by tapping up, then you can jab to keep the float going and then right back into another forward 3. But you can do this cancel in the neutral too. Forward 3 alone is -6 on block, but forward 3 down forward is -1, so the cancel does help your cause if you don't want to commit to a crouch dash move. 3-1 down forward is a similar situation. You can do the cancel from a raw crouch dash, by the way, but it's far more common from the transitions. We talked about crouch dash, which because it's a forward moving stance gives it a lot of utility as an approach tool, but that's just a small part of Drag's space control. In truth, he's built to control space with his long limbs, which are reflected in the crazy range he has on almost all of his core tools, especially his pokes. The real meat of your game though will be running 2, one of, if not the best approach move in the game. We went over the important stats of running 2 and essential moves, but a couple of general notes that are really important to remember. First, the +6 on block is obviously good, but in practical terms, +6 means that doing a down forward 1 or down forward 4 will beat out standard armor moves, including supers, so especially at the wall, be attentive to how they react to blocking running 2. Down forward 1-4 is a natural combo on counter hit, so if they're swinging in that situation, you'll get a nice wall combo from that. Second, it is crucial to learn instant while running. You really want to be able to do running 2 not only immediately, but from point blank range, which requires instant while running. Doing this allows you to do multiple running 2s in a row. Thanks to the +6 on block, another immediate running 2 will beat a lot of things. Plus, the pushback you get from a blocked running 2 is crazy good. Given that his wall game is pretty nasty, just a couple of blocked running 2s can push your opponent really far back. And lastly, make sure to mix up the timing of your forward input for running. Although running 2's tracking has been nerfed over time, it still needs a solidly timed sidestep to get around. By mixing up your forward timing, you can help realign yourself by throwing off your opponent's timing. Tracking issues aside, your entire game will center around running 2, so like a Mishima Electric, practice, practice, practice. Outside of that, down 2 and down back 4 are key. Down 2 has decent tracking and down back 4 has amazing tracking, so they help limit movement. They both high crush, so it helps limit jab or other high harassment. You'll use down 2 more just because it offers more reward, but they're both important to help get opponents to sit still and watch their toes. Note that down 3 and down 4 exist, and although they have as good or better range than down 2, they are riskier and offer less reward. If your opponent is getting really predictable with highs, you can try the occasional down back 3, just note that it's reactable and really terrible on block, so it's a big risk. Can still be useful as a skill check though. Most drags stick to only down 2 and down back 4 for their lows with a sprinkle of CD3. That's really all you need to get them ducking alongside your command grabs and the rare tackle. The important element of all these tools is that they help you stay in your opponent's face. Running 2 is a magnet. They can never get away from you because of that move. His lows we mentioned either move you forward or suck them in on hit, or both. All his command grabs can be done from a dash, and his crouch dash naturally moves forward, as does the tackle. But even once you're in, his other common tools maintain that same range 0 face-to-face spacing. Back 1+2 and down 1 are great examples of this. Speaking of, part of what makes his down 2 so strong is that the character is littered with power mids and mid strings, so it's really easy to make them not want to duck. We went over the best stuff in essential moves, but it's worth noting too that a lot of his pressure can be derived from his string game, since he has so many 2 and 3 hit strings that you can use to make it difficult for your opponent to figure out when it's their turn or when to duck. For example, we didn't mention back 1-2 in essential moves, but that can yield high reward since it's a mid-mid natural combo that gives the spin state on hit so it can splat, and the second hit launches on counter hit. Pair that with all his strong single hit tools, again think down 1, down forward 1, etc., and it's suddenly worth taking the risk with a string like that. In a similar manner, don't forget that a bunch of his stuff is delayable or cancelable. Think down back 2-1-2, all delayable, forward 2-4, again delayable, 1-3-2, cancelable, and so on. Or you can simply cut your strings short and take back the initiative. What's interesting about this close range style though is that Drag has the ability to turn on a dime and play a mid-range spacing game to set up whiff punishes. You may have noticed that a lot of his safe but heavily negative moves can either be spaced to make them more or less neutral afterwards, or they have inherent pushback. Examples include up forward 4, down forward 4, while standing 3, back 3, and forward 1+2. But even if you just want to chill back for a moment and see if they're going to mindlessly swing at you, maybe trying to counter hit your running 2, you have a ton of good whiff punishment. Down forward 2 has good range and is a mid, forward 1+2 has great range but is a high, CD1 fits into that same category. We mentioned CD2 and while standing 2 specifically from the fake crouch dash as options. It's just really dangerous for your opponent to be swinging at those longer ranges. But generally the game plan for Dragunov is pretty simple. Abuse running 2 and down 2, abuse your power mids to keep them from ducking, thus strengthening your down 2 and your grabs, and abuse your nasty string game. Lay on the counter hits from that pressure, then if they get out of line, whiff punish their face off and profit. As always, we'll start by recommending Applay. It's the best quick info resource out there. Once you start to get comfortable with Tekken and you want to pick up a character on the fly, there's nothing better than this. At this point, JDCR's reputation speaks for itself, and his play defined Dragunov for most of T7's lifespan. Although JDCR has mostly moved on from Drag, even watching his older sets is still more than enough to give you a ton of ideas on how to play the character to maximum efficiency. Otherwise, JDCR has all the normal social media and streams regularly on Twitch. We could probably just stop at JDCR, but Nobi deserves an honorable mention here. He's been one of Japan's best players, and at many times their absolute best player for a long time, and he's actually played Dragunov more consistently through the entirety of T7's life than JDCR. Note that the Twitch channel is a combination channel he shares with the other Yamasa players, but you can find plenty of his matches on YouTube as well. And as usual, don't take this list as final. Drag has been a popular tournament character over the years, so this list is just to get you started. Search around and you'll find more. This brings us to the end of our guide. Overall, Drag is a really good pressure character with plenty of good pokes and strings and a full grab game. He does have a little bit of an execution requirement with instant while running 2 and the crouch dash cancel juggles. He also has infamously high hitboxes on his mids that you may find challenging in certain matchups. And as good as he is getting in, he can struggle to keep people out. Still, his range and whiff punishing are amazing. He hits like a Mack truck and he's not overly complicated to play. You should have plenty of opportunities to crank out the W's. So keep at it, and I wish you the best of luck in your training. And with that, thanks for checking out this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications here on YouTube so that you get alerted when a new video drops. Twitch and Twitter links are also down below. Lastly, huge thank you to our patrons. The more support we have, the more resources we can devote to channel content. So again, I can't thank everyone enough for considering supporting the Patreon. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.